So going into Exit 8, I knew the basic concept. I knew of the video game through a Super Eye Patch Wolf video, and I thought it's a pretty neat concept. And I didn't really know much else. I didn't know about the film at all. I knew that the film existed. I knew it was a Japanese film. And I was like, yeah, and I was looking forward to it. I like horror films. I like Japanese cinema. I enjoy Japanese horror films. So I decided to just go into the film with that being my only knowledge of it. And I have to say, I loved Exit 8. I think loved is a good word to use. I know that's like a strong word. But my God, like this film did a lot that I enjoyed. That not a lot of films really do. Or like a lot of films do these kinds of things, but not all in once. So it's just really cool to see it. So like as I said, I didn't know much about the film itself. Not familiar with the director, Gengi Karamura. By the way, if you see me look down, it's like I've got certain credits here, and with these being Japanese names, I need to make sure that I get them right. Gengi Karamura being the director of this film. Not familiar with his work. So when the film starts, again, I knew of the video game. I knew it's an indie title, and it's a first-person indie title where you go through a hallway, and it's like kind of like a loop. It's a bit of a PT kind of a thing. And if you know me, you know I love PT. So okay, cool. And I knew it was set like in a subway station kind of thing. So when the film starts, by the way, spoilers for Exit 8, if you haven't seen it. Leave, because I'm going to spoil the film. So when the film starts, and it's first person, we are through the eyes of our protagonist here. And again, I hadn't seen the trailers. I don't know anything. I didn't know anything about it. So I thought like, oh, is the whole film going to be first person? And my instant thought was like, oh, that's interesting. That's a fun way to do a video game adaptation where the video game is first person. It's like, okay, this could be neat. I knew it was an hour 35, so I thought, okay, we'll see if this can last that length before getting too old. So the film opens in first person. We get introduced to our protagonist. We don't know anything yet. We just get introduced to the protagonist through a phone call of him talking to his partner. His partner is saying that, I think she's credited as his partner, but I'm not sure if they're like, no, they are credited as like, either way, he gets a phone call from the person credited as his partner saying like that she's pregnant, she's in the hospital, and he's like, what? And all this is through first person. We get some really amazing sound design where he puts his earphones in and then the sound is engulfed, and when he gets knocked and his earphones fall and then we instantly don't hear it. You know, it's just really inventive, cool stuff here. And then we get in the loop, and the first person is still in the loop for a bit. Up until the very first anomaly is shown with the walking man, who is played by Yamato Kochi, is stood smiling. And then we do a cut to a close-up of the walking man stood smiling. And then we cut reverse, and then we see our protagonist, played by Kazunari Ninomiya. And that's the first time we have this cut, and now we're out of the first person. So right then and then, I'm like, oh, that was interesting. And then I think, okay, we're just going to get a lot of shot reverse shots, a lot of angles kind of thing. Now we're out the first person. The first person was just there as like a cold open. Now we're out of it. But then a lot of the film sticks within a long take. And then I think, oh, is the film going to be one big simulated oneer? And for a good while it is. There's a good chunk where we see the lost man just walking in this loop. And we are just following him in simulated one takes. But then we cut. So the film is almost stringed together like one big... So it's not meant to look like it's one shot. there's many times in this film where it's like we do these really long takes for maybe 20 minutes, and then we do an absolute obvious cut to something, and then we cut back to another thing, and it continues into another simulated one take. This is what I mean in the sense, like, I've seen many films that do simulated one shots, and I like, and I'm a sucker for a one. You know, I think if you can do a one very well, you've won me over. But I also think it can it can fall into the danger of being gimmicky and then just have no reason to do it. Like, it can be a bit boring otherwise. Whereas this, because obviously within a video game, especially like Exit 8, it is a one shot. You're doing a continuous process of being a first person voyeuristic thing going through an environment. And the film utilizes that, but if it solely stuck to just being a one shot or just a first person film, then in my head I'm like, okay, well, it's giving me no other reason to watch it. I could just be playing the game. And this is where I come to the point of thinking that what I walked away from with Exit 8 is almost, to me, this is kind of like the perfect video game adaptation where it does a lot of what a video game is. Again, it shows us the first person element, and it shows us just one long continuous take. Like, again, there's elements that feels like if it's a third person. I know Exit 8 isn't a third person game, but obviously third person perspective is a big thing within video games as well. So the film kind of goes, okay, we're going first person, we're doing long third person kind of takes, and again, all that could be like, okay, now it's a video game film. But then it utilizes cinema in the way of like, now we're gonna cut to a close up of something, and then that's gonna, like, again, the close up of the walking man smiling, that is a cinematic angle that is effective, and it's utilizing it in favor of what we're getting. Now, another thing that I love about this film is that what it adds narratively. Again, from my understanding of the video game, there isn't really a narrative. It's pure concept, which works for video games. I think for a first-person video game with no voice or dialogue, it works. You know, a game could just put you in a situation, gives you a concept. There's this loop. There's this time loop. You're in a thing. You can't, if you don't see an anomaly, keep walking and you'll advance. And if you do see an anomaly, you need to turn back around and go back. That's and that's all you need for a video game. And in order to go up the levels, so you go through Exit 0, Exit 1, up until you get to the point of Exit 8. That works as a video game. For a film, we need a bit more than that. We need something. And what this film gives is a narrative, which isn't in the game. And we have the Lost Man, played by Kazunari Ninomiya, who, upon research, is known for Letters from Iwo Jima and also the Gantz films, I believe. And his perspective is, okay, he is someone that is on his way to his temp job, and he's got this phone call from his partner saying that she's pregnant. He's surprised about it. And there's a narrative of like, oh, he's like grappling with fatherhood and what that could mean, and feeling like, is he ready for it? And I think what separates this film from just being like, okay, let's put a generic character in this, is the performance by Kazunari Ninomiya, who I think is absolutely outstanding. Like, again, there's moments where he does the video gamey protagonist thing where it goes, I need to read the rules, and now I need to look and keep an eye on, okay, door, advert, vent, smoke, you know, all this stuff. But then there's moments where he's going, and then he resets back to 0. He doesn't realize why he's reset back to 0, and then he breaks down. And to me, seeing his pain and torture and his mental anguish just gives this film so much more oomph. There's just an added like excitement, or like there feels like there's stakes in this film that's very low scale. Like we're in this enclosed environment for so long, which, oh my god, the environment is so cool. It's so like, again, it's claustrophobic. There's no windows. It's sterile white. You hear like the sound of like the lights, which is, there's something just inherently icky about that to me. And his performance is absolutely amazing to it, I think. I don't think he's not over the top. He's not cheesy. There's plenty of moments where we get close-ups of him and you can just see it within his eyes. That's like, there is a pain there, and he's taking this like legitimately like amazing. And it's not just him. Obviously the cast is small, but then you get like the Yamato Kochi, who plays the Walking Man, who for a good chunk of the film is like, he's almost like the embodiment of the villain, even though there isn't really a villain in this film. But he's the creepy thing in the film for a good chunk. And then there's a point where we then get his perspective. And again, it's and we see it in one shot. The camera then moves to him and is following him upright, straight-faced, and he's walking. And then when he walks round the corner, we then kind of do a time jump. But it's not like a mad cut. And then his posture changes, then his facial expression changes. And now we're seeing his perspective. We're seeing his journey through Exit 8. And in that one moment, you see his performance going from, I am meant to be the uncanny, creepy thing of the film, to now I'm the protagonist of my story of the film. And then his stuff's really compelling as well. And it's all interesting. And in terms from a script writing point of view, that side of it builds up on so much cool lore within the film that doesn't need a spoon feed. It's very soft world building. It just gives you the chance to kind of like see what's happening. But it's so cool. Like the whole like thing about it, like, oh, so anything that we do see that is an anomaly can be looked upon as like, oh, these are just other people that got stuck in this loop. And yeah, I don't know. I loved it. And I loved it. I think like from an emotional point of view, there's a lot in this that really grips me. And just like it utilizes the concept of this constant loop, and where you really need to start looking out for things. And as an audience member, I hear people maybe are like, I can understand if people are like, oh, well, we just see the same thing over and over again. Yes, exactly. To me, that's really cool, because even though there is a repetition in the film, what's happening within the characters isn't repeating. The character is going through this journey, even though they may be going through, even though there may be things where we're not advancing, like the environment, but the character progression is advancing. And that's just really smart to me. And I just generally think from like a horror concept, because again, and especially from a horror concept, there's no jump scares in this film. And there's even some jump scary stuff in the game Exit 8, where like there's the guy like who blends in the wall, then he runs after you. There's nothing really like that in this film. There's the one moment of the school girl that starts getting really creepy and all that. But the horror in the film is more so like the again, like the uncanny stuff that changes. Like there's no big like, oh, now a big scary thing chasing after you. It's now like, oh, now we're getting a flood. That wasn't there before. That's eerie. Oh, now the man is just standing smiling. That's eerie. Oh, that door handle used to be on the side of the door. Now it's in the center. That's eerie. Yeah, so to me, and throughout the whole film, I just felt like this pit in my chest. Like it was so like I just felt like so like there was like this anxiety level of it. And I know like there's liminal horror, and I think this is like a golden example of liminal horror. But I think like it almost takes the corridor stuff from The Shining and amplifies it. I'm not saying like the film goes to the depths of The Shining, but I think the film can definitely be compared. The horror of the film of Exit 8 can definitely be compared to the horror of The Shining, I think. That just leaves you this like prolonged, dragged out sense of dread that really sits you. And I think to me, it's like you're sitting with the dread, but then on top of that, like of just the environment and the way it's shot and everything like that, and the slight changes on top of the characters included in the film and the narrative points that the film presents, it adds just this real, like, interesting combination of horror and emotion that has been done before. It's nothing new, but it's just really neat to see. It's a really cool film. I would definitely go back to it. And I know, and I don't want to compare, but I think if you are comparing it to a recent horror film as well, and a film that I've talked about here, like Undertone, well, Undertone it deals with similar themes. It goes with eerie, uncanny kind of horror, as well as a balance of like, okay, what is it to be a parent and parental figures? I think X8 does that a little bit better. And the way the film ends is really cool. Very cool, actually. Like, where it's like, we're back in the subway. And then I'm like, I mean, narrowly speaking, he needs to intervene. But also, I don't know if I want to see that. And then how the film ends is a close-up on the lost man. And then he moves, and then we cut. And it's just, I don't know. I think as well, just for me personally, the way this film's made and the techniques that the film uses just really scratches an itch for me from like a creative standpoint. And it's just cool, man. I think it's unnerving. I think the story is captivating. I think the characters are fascinating and interesting. And it just really adds, it's emotional. It has an emotional edge to it without being like it doesn't try to ruin you. Like a lot of like horror, like I if you look at horror 10 years ago, in order to try to touch on something emotional, it really almost tried to be like, we need to ruin you emotionally. And whereas like it doesn't try to do that, it just presents the emotions and the fact of like you're in this loop. And again, I love like the different outlooks on on like the concept of the film, and by default also the video game. Like in the sense of like, to me, like again, obviously like when I read the Fangoria article about this, and it's saying like, oh, it's heavily, it's very Japanese in the sense of the monotonous Japanese, work culture. I'm like, okay, that's very cool. How like it's an allegory for that. But then I've also heard people talk about the allegory, like it's an allegory of being like, they're in purgatory and they're trying to ascend heaven, which is also a really cool outlook on it. And I just looked at it just being like, especially I think with the main character, the Lost Man. He's also called the Lost Man, which I think, to me, it's just more so someone that feels lost in life. And I think especially within the film presents itself with the storyline of, you're going to be a father. And he's like, oh, am I? I don't know. And he feels more like he doesn't even know if he has sorted his own life out, never mind trying to sort a new life out. And just the character design of the Lost Man, he is schlubby, and he is he's not like a scruffy man, but he's almost like kept together and he's like, oh, okay, I'm just trying to get through life, and having this thing of being stuck in a loop. And it's not just a matter of fact, like, you need to go through the levels and then you're out of it. It's like you need to really keep an eye on not just even the most obvious things, but even like the small details. You need to notice changes. And if you don't really notice changes, you're back to square one. I think there's something really interesting in that. And I think there's a lot of this film that you could break down and really take with you, especially within the specific storyline presented within the film. I think it's great, man. X8 rocked me, man. It's so good, and I can't wait to watch it again.